Well, good day from the South African channel. So today I wanted to just explore with you or share my experiences with you guys about why I've made the Dominican Republic my home and why I love the place. So I originally left South Africa in 1991 to begin my travels around the world. And in my travels, I've lived in the UK, in England, I've lived in Mexico, I've lived in United States of America, legally, yes, and numerous islands in the Caribbean. Also traveled there, but those are the main places that I've actually lived. And each place has shaped me and made me more diverse and more accepting to people, culture, and ultimately, I believe, made me the person I am today and hopefully better than what I was. And I was brought up in the apartheid era. I was born in South Africa in the late 60s and grew up in the 70s/80s. So my childhood was very much during the apartheid era. I was lucky enough that my parents were upper middle class. My father had his own mechanic business. My mom was an accountant. So we lived in good areas, went to good schools, and I guess in a way didn't really maybe experience all the hardships of a lot of other people in South Africa. But that being said, I never really understood the hatred and the culture. So we were brought up we had maids working in our house, we had a garden guy working in our house that lived on our property, and they were very much part of our family. And as children, they were just part of your family. And we were, as my parents, we weren't allowed to disrespect them. We had to treat them just like any other adult. But needless to say, but for us growing up, it was just different. As I got older and older, I didn't understand how one race or could have such power over another. So long and short of it, I never agreed with apartheid, and it wasn't something that I understood. Okay. So that being said, being raised in South Africa during the apartheid era, whether you liked it or not, a lot of it was distilled in you. Not maybe it wasn't the hatred wasn't distilled. It was just we were different. So I was different, you were different, you lived over there, I lived over here, I went to these supermarkets, you went to those supermarkets. And as you get older, obviously you understood and you would hear the hatred speak. And obviously there was a lot of people that were very racist and would treat the local South Africans terribly. However, I never agreed with it, and I never understood it. And my dream was always to go to America for obviously the American dream, but also because I felt like we were all just people there, the freedom of America, which, I still believe in America being, the American dream, let's put it that way. And I'm on no part of any of the politics or the Magna or the current prime minister, president, whatever they are. Okay. So getting back to the main point of this, through my travels around the world, they've reprogrammed my mind, so to speak, and made me more open to culture and people and acceptance of people, just like you're a person, regardless of what color you're from, what country you're from, what economical level you're from. Now, don't get me wrong, I have no part of the craziness, I call it, of where people believe they're cats or dogs, or I don't get involved in that. I don't get involved. I have absolutely no problem about people's sexual preferences and all that. I have no problem with any of that. However, people are people. So just because of the color of skin, just from where you're from, just because whether your parents are rich or poor, I don't believe that people should be allowed to have power over the other people. Now, whether you accept them or not, I have no problem with that. So if you're rich and you want to accept poor people, that's fine. But don't discriminate against them. Don't abuse them. Don't use your power to make their lives worse. Sally's just making her comments in the back. She agrees with me. Okay. So just to give you a little idea of what I mean by the programming. If I think back, if you had mentioned to me in my 20s, maybe even 30s, that I would one day be married to a person that wasn't European, wasn't white, so to speak, I wouldn't have gone, oh, you're crazy, out of hatred for other colored people. It would just been like, that's like you saying I'd be married to a tree. It's just, no, that's just not done. Like, and I would marry a tree. So in my mind, it wasn't a racist thing that I would have been like, oh no, I would never marry a non-white person. It was just like, that's not done. Once again, the programming that you went through, it was just there. So now, all my travels and my life, and yes, I am married to a Dominican, a Latino, that in South Africa, by the South African standard, South Africa, you either a black person, a colored person, an Indian person, or a white person. That is how you put down on your birth certificate, and that's how you distinguish. So my wife in South Africa would be classified as a colored person. And there's a whole other thing. I'm not going into South African politics. So anyway, that being said, an idea of the reprogramming. Now for me, it's completely normal. I think back and I go, it's kind of like saying, would you eat tripe? Would you go into a culture that I never knew you could eat raw fish and saying having sushi? And they'd be like, I would never eat sushi. They're not racist or hatred towards raw fish. It's just they've never experienced it. It's never been said. So the idea of not being married to a white person was just like, what? You just don't do that. It's just weird. Anyway, so moving on about that. A huge part of my reprogramming, or let's say the finalizing my reprogramming, is without a doubt being Dominican Republic. I first came to the Dominican Republic in 2017. Funny, with all my travels around the Caribbean, I'd never actually stopped in the Dominican Republic on any of the boats I worked on. Heard about it, but never stopped. So anyway, coming here in 2017, 18, came for a few little trips, just little visits here and there, 3-4 day trips. But like I said, I never came here to look at the culture. Just another Caribbean island, stayed in a resort, went to the beach, ate, left. That was it. Never, oh my God, it's amazing. But I wasn't expecting anything. I was in the Caribbean. We were living in Turks and Caicos. I've lived in the Bahamas. I've lived all over. So for me, it's just another Caribbean island. So we would come over and stay for a few days and leave. And yeah, it was fun. I wasn't like, oh my God, best place I've ever been to. It wasn't terrible. It was just, yeah, it was great. I had a good time. Food was cheap. People fine. Great. So anyway, coming back to, when I finally fell in love with the Dominican Republic was during COVID. Turks and Caicos was extremely locked down and the restrictions were really bad. And a friend of mine and I were trying to keep our legal status legal, and all the government offices were closed. So our visas were expiring. So we went out of Turks and Caicos to come back in to get a visiting stamp. So when COVID was over, we'd still be legal, and also just to get away. And we heard the Dominican Republic didn't have that many restrictions. So we came on over, and it was on this trip that I fell in love with the Dominican Republic. Everything was really negative in the world. My friend and I actually traveled to a lot of places during COVID. We took advantage of it. Besides the sticks up your nose, it was actually really good. You got a lot of good deals, and we went and saw a lot of places, Costa Rica, Panama, whatever. We really had a good time. Anyway, the Dominican Republic, people were just positive. It was like everywhere else there was this kind of negativity, unsureness of what was going on in the world. And you came to Dominican Republic and it was just like another day in the Dominican Republic. Sure, you had to wear masks, you had to do social distancing, but the vibe was the same. If anything, it was more upbeat. People were partying and just it was a good vibe. And I was just like, I wanted to look more into it. And it was actually on my first visit here that I met Carol, my wife now. A friend of mine came here and we booked a really nice villa because everything was so cheap at Airbnb. And we believed that everything was totally open, which it was, but it wasn't. Restaurants, bars, and that were open, but social distancing. There was a 10 o'clock curfew. It wasn't quite what we expected. Anyway, we had this massive big villa and we were like, well, what should we do? And our taxi driver was trying to promote us getting a bunch of working girls. I call them working girls, but a girl working in the sexual industry in Dominican Republic is actually legal. And we, I just come out of a 12-year marriage. My friend was married, so that wasn't the party we were looking for. So he was like, well, there's not really a lot of other options. Would you like a massage? I'm not somebody much for a massage. And something he said, would you like a manicure, pedicure? And I've never had one. And he was like, look, the lady will come over, but that's all she does. And anyway, long and the short of it, we said yes. And the lady that came over was Carol, who's now my wife. Anyway, we got along fine. So that's just a little side story. So anyway, during COVID, we in the Dominican Republic definitely sense this positivity. And I feel like this is really an island I want to explore more. So After a few of our travels in COVID, and definitely Carol was an influence for me coming back to the Dominican office. But the things that drew me to the Dominican Republic, why did I decide to make it my home? And truly, there's three things. One, the people, without a doubt, the people. And I'm going to go into my description of the people. I mean the masses, the people, 80% of the Dominican population. Their culture, they have a deep culture. They are such proud people. They love their country. You can meet a Dominican anywhere in the world and ask him about his country, and he'll speak to you with great passion, like they love their country. They love each other. They love their country. It's amazing. And then I'm going to get a little bit more into their culture. And then the warmth. The warmth between each other, which comes back to their culture, the warmth between each other, the acceptance of each other, their family, just their family here is not just DNA, blood family. They just, if you grew up with somebody as your brother or your cousin, and in the neighborhoods, the barriers, the warmth, the cultural energy is just truly astonishing, something I've never experienced anywhere in the world. I've been told that maybe countries like Vietnam, Fiji, Thailand are similar. I've never traveled to that side of the world, so I cannot comment on those at all. So, getting back into why I've made Dominica my life and their culture. One of the most important things I've learned since I've been here, and okay, so they have a saying in the Dominican Republic, and it's uno puerto se cierra, otro se abre. And my Spanish is terrible, I'm sorry. But basically, and this saying, funny enough, is something that I only recently discovered in doing some research actually for this video. I was trying to find like, is it just me or is it worldwide? And anyway, ChatGPT came up and gave me the same, which basically is one door closes, another one opens, which you've all heard. And to be honest, I've never heard a Dominican actually say this. However, truly, it's how they live, their mindset. So now that I've got to understand a bit more Spanish, I actually pick up a little bit more of their conversations that they have. And I'm in the city with the noise of the traffic. We'll get to the traffic in a bit. But Dominicans don't, most of them live really not a lot of money. The average salary, $350, $400 a month. It's not a lot of money. It really isn't. But you don't hear Dominicans complaining about their salary. You don't hear them complaining about their job. You don't hear them complaining about politics. Yes, every 4 years when there's an election, which is usually for 2-3 months, that's all they talk about is politics. But it's more like sports teams and real hatred. So when you actually speak to Dominicans, and if you complain or start, I can say bitching, complaining, talking, discussing your life, and you're like, yeah, things are really tight. I wish I could get a better house. I can't afford, my car's broken, and my dog's sick, and my child needs to go to university, and all that. They'll like kind of look at you and listen to you for a while. But if you carry on for too long, they're kind of like, okay, you've told me this. What's talking going to do about it? Let's listen to some music, have a drink, have a game of dominoes. Like, there's nothing you can do about it. All you can do, it's life. You can tomorrow go get another job or save some more money, but sitting there discussing it's not going to make things better. They're just not, they don't conceive it. They just kind of look at you like, you weird. They're talking about life and happy stuff and who won dominoes and which baseball team and just general life. They don't complain. They just carry on with life. It's genuinely amazing. It's a culture that I've never ever come across. It's something that I really like. And so let's explain why I believe Dominicans are so accepting of each other. So I want to get into a little bit of an analogy here. Imagine you're in a supermarket in Canada, America, South Africa for that matter, I'm sure Australia, England, anywhere. And the cashier was trying to get the attention of the guy standing behind you. Now, the gentleman standing behind you is a chubbier guy. And the cashier goes, hey, chubby one. And the guy doesn't notice. And the woman behind the chubby guy taps him on the shoulder and goes, hey, chubby one, the cashier's looking for you. I mean, could you just imagine if that was caught on somebody's iPhone camera in America or UK or whatever? This would become a viral video. The supermarket would be sued for quadrillions and because the cashier called the guy the chubby one. So now I'll explain something to you. In Dominican Republic, if gorda, kind of fat, chubby. So if somebody's going, hey, and let's say you're a little bit fatter or chubbier and you're standing and you hear somebody shouting, gorda, gorda, and you turn around and they're calling you, it's not an insult, and you wouldn't be offended. I mean, a Dominican won't be offended. Or if you never got their attention and somebody tapped you on the shoulder and say, "Hey, gorda, hey, chubby one," they're calling you. You would just go, "Oh, thank you," and you turn around and you look at the cashier. Or similarly, flacca flacca, which is the skinny one, or morena, which means brown. Like, let's say you're a little bit darker, they'll call you morena. If you're really dark skinned, they say, "Hey, negro." Gringo, so they call us gringos. It's not a derogatory term, it's a description. Like, gringo is kind of like a white person, the foreigner. But even, let's say, because Dominicans are so diverse that there's a lot of Dominicans that look like gringos. So if there was a Dominican and he got called gringo, it wouldn't be an insult. It's not a compliment, it's not an insult. It's just purely a description. They may even, let's say, they can't think of, "Oh, you fat, chubby, tall, skinny," and the most distinctive thing about you is you're wearing an extremely bright blue shirt. They'll say, "Hey, Azul Cardesa," or whatever, like, "Hey, the one in the blue shirt." So whatever they feel is the most descriptive about how you look, that's what they'll call you. And funny enough, it's not just if they don't know your name, get your attention within their own cultures. Yeah, you would be known about the blonde one, the skinny one, the fat one, the short one, the funny one, the stupid one. Like, let's say there's some guy that always does stupid things. I'll call him the stupid one. No insult. They're just so accepting. Now, the gorda, flacca flacca, I've experienced as living in Mexico and living in other countries, but not as much as in here, and not without any malice and anything. It's just that's how they are talking about you. The gringo thing, if you're in the Dominican Republic and you're calling you gringo or whatever, it's not an insult, it's not a compliment, it's just a descriptive of who you are. There's such a diverse mixture. Dominicans are from African, European, Chinese, Indian, such a diversity of cultures that have intermixed here. So you could have a family where one child almost looks Chinese, another one looks like a gringo, the mother and the father are the same. So yes, there is, once you delve really deeper into their culture and you start nitpicking and sanding away and questioning, yes, there is a bit like they'd all prefer to be lighter skinned, darker skin. They don't like the women, and the men don't go in the sun because they don't want their skin to go browner. Yes, there is that, but it's more of a preference. It's not a hatred. Like, they don't hate white people. Now, trust me, I've lived in a lot of Caribbean islands, and I'm going to say 90% of the Caribbean, there is hatred, racism between black and white, without a doubt, and nobody can tell me any different. I've lived there. Most of the islands are inhabited by local black culture, and yes, I went to Jamaica, I went to St. Thomas, I went there. They love me. Yes, they love tourists, and they'll treat you fantastic. Go move there and stay there for a year or two, and then come back and talk to me. They don't like expats, and expats don't do any favors for themselves. They mix with each other, and that's another whole expat islands. Dominican Republic, it's not like that. They don't care where you're from. You can go live anywhere. You can walk into any supermarket. If you see a bunch of Dominicans playing domino and you go and stand and watch the game, it's a good chance you'll be handed a beer. They won't even ask your name. Hello, just be, "Oh yeah, just give you a beer." Not even, "Hey, do you want a beer?" Like, just pass you a beer. You want to play the game, you want to get involved. They don't care where you're from, what you are. You're just another person. They don't fall all over you like a lot of tourists or other islands where they run into you trying to sell you stuff. And yes, in the Punta Cana and the tourist areas, there's guys that walk down the beach and try and sell you stuff. But in general, they're not falling over their feet to impress you. It's kind of, if anybody who's not selling tourist items doesn't care about you. You're just another person. They don't treat you nice. They don't treat you horribly. They just treat you like they treat anybody else. You're just another person. So I need to stay a little bit more direct and positive. Yeah, I tend to waffle off in different directions. So getting back into Spanish, the language. Yes, they purely speak Spanish. You're going to be hard-pressed to find anyone that speaks English. And I've really been battling to learn Spanish. I'm still trying. I do lessons. I do all kinds of things. I try and immerse myself. But I am battling with Spanish. However, if I ask the Spanish people, por favor, habla despacio, which is please speak a little bit slowly, I found them extremely accommodating. I've had other gringos say they don't have the same experience. I found, if I just give them a bit of respect and just ask them to help, they'll be more descriptive, talk slowly. So for me, I don't have a problem getting but I was Spanish. Now, the challenging thing. So with any country, Dominica, I want to go through what I call the challenging things first before we go into more positive things, because I'm more positive. One thing I do want to mention is the young woman falling pregnant from young age, but definitely 20 to 25. You're hard pressed to find a Dominican woman of that age group who hasn't at least had one child. Um, I have yet to come across one that's actually been officially married. To be honest, I've been here 6 years. I've yet to see one wedding ceremony. I haven't seen anywhere. Gringos at the beach, yes, seen lots of those, but I haven't seen a Dominican wedding. And from my mixture, the rich Dominicans get married. I haven't truly met a poor Dominican. I've met them where they call each other husband and wife and they've lived together all their lives. But if you ask them where they got married, well, they don't. They live together and they don't waste money, I guess, on marriage. I don't know. But the young women are almost driven to fall pregnant. So their mothers, grandparents will put pressure on the woman, like, why haven't you had a baby yet? Why haven't you had a baby yet? And unfortunately, the men aren't very good. I'm generalizing, but in general, the men will have the babies and not really do much, maybe visit them, maybe give them birthday, but not like an active thing. And by the way, the court system here is actually really good. My wife had to go through it because her baby daddy, who's American, caused some problems, and she went through the court system, but I don't think she would have been able to afford it if it wasn't for our relationship. So it is expensive, time consuming. So most of these women, it's just accepted. You have a baby, you raise it. Your mother helps you, your grandmother helps you, your father helps you, but you can't expect the husband or the boy or the baby daddy to help you. So that is something that is kind of sad and testing. And, you could meet a 25-year-old girl with 4 babies and that. It's kind of, I think, a little bit of an education thing. Then the next thing I do want to mention is abuse against women. There's very much still a masculine chauvinism attitude. Yeah, men still kind of believe they are better, higher, and they don't. I wouldn't say it's openly talk down to women, and women are submissive. Like I've heard about, like Eastern European or maybe some more other cultures, like the Arab cultures or that women don't have to cover themselves up. It's nothing like that. If anything, the women like to show their bodies and the men love it too. But there is, unfortunately, not going to use the word domestic violence because it is domestic violence, but a lot of these women that get abused don't live with the man and that. So there is a lot of abuse against women, which is a sad aspect and something that I want to put down on the challenging list. The next, which is something I'm really passionate about, is the littering and the pollution. Now, just a quick little story here. My wife had never been on a plane, never driven a car when I met her, and I flew over to Turks and Caicos where I was living, and one of the days we were driving down a secluded road to a beach, and she was drinking her water. When she finished, she threw the bottle out the car. I slammed on brakes. I'm like, what the hell are you doing? She looked at me, not even knowing what I was angry about, and I was like, you just threw the bottle out the window? And she was like, yes. And anyway, I went and got the bottle, came back. She was crying, upset, like not knowing. And long and short of it, once I explained to her, she was just like, well, that's what you do. When you finish, you just throw it on the road and somebody picks it up, she says. And I'm like, well, who's this somebody? Anyway, explained to her, but it made me realize that the pollution and littering is a cultural, educational thing. Yeah, they're not educated at school and on. You go to supermarket, grocery stores, they put everything in 3-4 plastic bags for one item. If you go into a store and you buy a soda or something, they give it to you, they put it in a plastic bag or whatever. And if a local Dominican doesn't get his plastic bag, he's kind of offended, then he'll walk out the store, throw the bag on the floor and drink his soda. So it's very much an educational thing. But yes, pollution, the beautiful rivers, the beaches, are very much covered in pollution. And that's something that I really hope to try and educate. And my wife and I are already starting little beach cleanup programs, but that's another video too. Then the traffic. So coming to the Dominican Republic, you would have known or heard the traffic. The traffic is insane, absolutely insane. The nickname for it is tapon. So the traffic in the city is absolutely insane. People just drive. When you first get here, you're just like, oh my God, I'm going to die. kind of just works. So people drive very aggressively, but they're not aggressive people. I've yet to see somebody actually get out the car and beat somebody up. I'm sure it happens, but I saw that more in Los Angeles or Arizona than I've ever seen it here. Once in a while, maybe somebody will give somebody the finger gesture. Blowing the horn over here is more of like, hey, I'm here, then get out of my way. Yes, it's also used as get out of my way, but it's more, hey, you know, I'm here. So the traffic just works. But yes, the traffic is insane. Getting around the city is absolutely insane. When you do go on any of the open roads, there's a lot of road deaths. So I'm going to put it as a challenging thing. The traffic is challenging, and a lot of people die in accidents here. Then I'm going to put another one in the challenging thing under corruption. So, you know, corruption does ultimately hurt the system, and corruption is rife here. It's a good and a bad thing. A traffic officer stops you. There's a good chance he's going to ask you just to give him some money. Now, he'll take that money and take it home and buy food and all that. So he's not really going to go buy drugs or get drunk on it. He might buy beer, but they're very good with looking after that. Now, something else that I want to put down as a challenging thing is the diversity between the rich and the poor. So, depending on which charts you look at, 8%, 5 to 8% of Dominicans control a large part of the Dominican wealth. 50%-ish of the people, they say, are just your normal working class. They say it's like the balance of the 40% is divided into the really poor and the middle class. Now, through my time here, my business here, I've got to deal with a lot of rich Dominicans, and rich Dominicans are not, when I'm referring to Dominicans, please, I'm referring to the 40%. I'm not referring to the 10%. And generalizing here again, rich Dominicans consider themselves a different class, status, and everything I've just said about Dominicans, how they culturally look after each other. I'm talking about the 90%. The 10%, they truly just live within amongst themselves. And yes, sorry for all the rich Dominicans that are listening, but they treat their local people terribly, talk to them terribly, it will make them work. They just don't treat them nicely, and just not my people. So when I'm talking about Dominicans, we're talking about the 90%, the 20% poor, 20 middle class, and 50. So just wanted that on the record. So the positive points, getting to the positive points. So first and foremostly, it's the family and the community spirit. So over here, they come together. It's normal to share your food, help somebody who's sick. If you cook a big pot of food and people come to eat, you don't even ask who they are, what they're doing there. They don't owe you. If they eat there 2-3 days, you don't say you've eaten here for 2-3 days. You just, if you don't have money to buy food, well, then you don't cook, and then you go to whoever's house does have food. When I met my wife, she lived with her mother. She comes from a very poor neighborhood. She lived with her mother and her grandmother in the same house. Grandmother lived in the same house. Her grandmother raised her. Mother worked now. Her mother looks after Carol's daughter, and Carol has her life. But I would go there, and I was helping out the family, but just be generous, not to be one of those gringos that they say, was taken and abused by a beautiful young Dominican. It was nothing like that. I love to help, and I help anyway. But I would go there, and I was kind of like, who are all these people? And now, over the years, it's just, if you got food, you cook and you help. If your neighbor's doing the washing, you'll take your washing over and they'll do it with you. The community spirit is absolutely amazing. They have little things here, just to get into briefly, to mention about their communal spirit. They have things called tandas, which is, they have them a lot in Africa too, but basically everybody will put $1 or $5 into a can, and over a week or until it gets to a certain amount of agreed money, that money will be given to Patricia. Say they've decided Patricia's getting the tanda for whatever reason, needs something. Then they'll carry on money and somebody else will get the can, and they carry on money and somebody else will put the can, and it's not done on okay, you owe, you put in. It's just everyone puts whatever they can spare into the can, and when it gets to a certain amount, it gets given to somebody else. They also barter a lot because money is so tight and difficult. You get a lot of bartering, which is really good and really nice. And also, once again, I found keeps the community spirit together a lot. So it's definitely the positivity. Now, another thing I want to say in positivity, which I want to bring up, which I haven't seen in a lot of videos of people that talk, is their work ethic. Now, I'm sure there are a lot of people that live here or down are going to be, oh, I laugh. But you know what? I've had businesses all over the Caribbean, in America, and Africa, in the UK, Mexico. And honestly, for me, I've never come across a culture that works so much. They may be not doing the right thing. They maybe sometimes do their own thing and don't listen to instructions. However, they work in. You're hard pressed to find homeless people, beggars. Yeah, people are at the traffic lights, say, trying to wash a windshield for money, and they're trying to sell you something for money. And if you go around, people are working. Doesn't matter what they're doing. They may be doing the wrong job. They may be doing a stupid job. They may be doing their job incorrectly, but they're working. In the 6 years I've been here with the business, my workers are amazing. You know, if they're not at work, it's for a valid reason. They're always on time. If they're ever late, it's a valid reason. They're not just looking to do nothing. You don't find them hiding away from work, slouching away, overdoing their lunch hours. So I don't care about other people's experience. My experience of work ethic here is amazing. And everybody's working. When you go around during the day, everybody's doing something. Whatever they do, but they're doing something. Next, positive note, the crime. Yes, I put it under a positive note. Again, lived on many Caribbean islands, was on Turks and Caicos before I came here. And the crime here, honestly, as far as I'm concerned, it's non-existent. Yes, obviously you have crime everywhere, and people look at the statistics. Yes, statistics. In Turks and Caicos, it has one of the highest murder rates per capita in the Caribbean. Do most tourists that do tourists know that? Do they see it? No, because the murder is between the gangsters and does trickle over. But there have been a couple of tourists shot in Turks and Caicos in the last 2 years, caught in the crossfire. However, for the most part, you weren't there. I would never have left my house unlocked in Turks and Caicos. I wouldn't have left my car unlocked in Turks and Caicos. I wouldn't have just felt safe walking into a random local bar in downtown in Turks and Caicos, and I wouldn't have been safe. In Dominican Republic, I don't care where I am, I feel safe. Yes, I'm not stupid. Maybe I carry myself different being from African descent, and I'm not stupid. I know what to do and what not to do, but I've never felt not safe. I hardly ever lock my car. So I find out what car I've had, but I hardly ever lock my car. Never ever felt unsafe. They just don't care about you. You can just walk down the road and they don't just care about you. It's not, oh, there's a gringo, let's try rob him, or let's try, you're just another person. I literally feel like I'm just another person walking down the road. Nobody cares about you. And if you go into any local bar, restaurant, sit down, whatever, they don't treat you any different. If they gave a Dominican a beer, they give you a beer. They treat you exactly the same way. And when you try to speak Spanish, they really enjoy it. They're like, wow, this gringo is really trying. And it's amazing. I love it. So for me, crime is on the positive note. Then cost of living. Yes, another controversial subject here in the Dominican Republic with locals, gringos, expats. The cost of living is definitely, even since I've been here, gone really much higher than it was. However, it's still cheaper than most other countries in the world. Now, us gringos tend to live our gringo cultural life that we used to, where we used to. So we shop in the supermarkets, we rent or buy in the areas that we used to, and these areas are the richer, normally upper middle class areas. And the supermarkets we go to and the food we buy and the food we use to is of the more expensive. But being around my wife and my workers, and I've met a lot of Dominicans, and yeah, they get by on $350 a month, and you can buy a whole chicken. It's kind of a little bit rough, but there'll be trucks driving around with live chickens on the back. You stop them, he grabs the chicken, wrings its neck. I know it's terrible. Plucks it, cleans it for you, and gives it to you for dollars, no money. Fresh vegetables, because everything grows in the Dominican Republic. They have immense amounts of fresh water. Everything grows. 90% of the local fruit is organic because they just don't waste their money putting insecticide on and whatever, because why would you? If 5 tomato plants die, they've got another 20 that are growing. So the cattle, a lot of the meat is organic because it just roams around and eats organic grass, and giving a cattle medicine for them would be more. Now, obviously, there's cattle farms that do it, but in general, everything is very healthy. And if you actually shop or buy your food from the more local places, cost of living is extremely cheap. But even living as a gringo, it's still cheaper. Then next, they're positive, their music. I don't know, I've never ever in my life been in an island culture that music is such a part of their life, so loved. Like, I think if a Dominican didn't listen to music one time a day, they'd go into some kind of shock or seizure. They love their music, and on the weekends and the nights you'll drive by and they have their cars with these massive big speakers on them. And another thing is, doesn't matter how they play their music extremely loud, but you never hear distort music. It's always a really good quality. So they love the music, and maybe that's why they're always so happy and positive. It's like, why bitch and complain? Let's put music on, have a game of dominoes, have fun. And yeah, when they play dominoes, they're very passionate. And I have seen a few fights over the domino tables. Then another one of the positive notes, healthcare. Now, the local healthcare system is maybe not the best, and the doctors and the healthcare are good. And, the government, I want to say it's not free, but it's basically free. Dominicans can get healthcare, maybe not the best, but they do get healthcare. Then you go into the private healthcare sector. The private healthcare hospitals here go from mediocre to amazing. If you do come here, I highly suggest you have travel insurance, because they do want money when they check you in to cover you. But my son was sick here, I had to go to the hospital, so I experienced the hospitals. But the healthcare is really good, yeah, and they have some amazing things. Like, I had my eye surgery here. They're actually worldwide known for their eye surgery. Their plastic surgery is really coming up. Knee replacements, their dental work, they have amazing dental work at really good prices. So a lot of people come from all over the world to have eye surgery, dental work, cosmetic surgery, and other medical procedures here, because medical is really good. Then the last thing I want to mention on the positivity note is the eco diversity of the island. You've got Constantia, which is the highest mountain in the Caribbean, and it really gets cold there at night, and once in a while a little bit of snow falls, doesn't last, but stays. So you've got that massive mountain, rivers, waterfalls everywhere around there. Then you can go all the way down to the south, and there's a desert in the Barahona area, like literally a desert. Somebody's actually just recently opened like a resort there, so it looks like Dubai. They got camels and all the rest of it there. Then you go further south towards Haiti. There's a place called Pedernales, which is just like tropical paradise. You'd swear that you're in Bahamas or whatever again. Then you can you go up to Punta Cana, where all the gringos live. Not all, but where the gringos love to stay. And there's actually a guy, Jamie Gruber. This Jamie Gruber YouTube channel, he actually has got some really, really good Dominican videos. Also married to a Dominican living down here. But he carries a lot of good aspects. And if you ever see this, Jamie, thumbs up. I really like your videos. They're really informative. They're really great. So this Jamie Gruber, go check him out. He's good. Never met him, don't know him. Just watch his videos. That's it. And then there's tons of gringos buying property, living, and they all talk about Punta Cana, and I'm not going to get into that. I don't stay there. We have a place in Santo Domingo and a boutique hotel in Las Terrenas. Las Terrenas is mi gusta, my favorite. I love it. I find Las Terrenas is more a mixture between locals, and yes, there's a lot of expats there, but it's more real to me. Punta Cana and all that, I feel like I'm just back in America. And it's nothing wrong with it. It's great. I actually love going to Punta Cana every once in a while and staying there for a few days. They got great restaurants. And for me, I treat it like Disneyland. I go there for a few days, have my Disneyland fix, and then I leave. But each to their own, everyone to their own. So you've got Punta Cana, then you've got Luperon, which is up in the north. It's a great boating, mango, natural harbor. But in that area, it's kind of like little oases. So it's a very kind of like oasis, lakes kind of thing. Santo Domingo also has a salt lakes in the middle towards the Haitian border, where they actually have saltwater crocodiles, which a lot of people don't know. But then you have Puerto Plata up in the north, which used to be a big tourist town. They're very rock, cliff, beach area, whole different other things. So you've got so many diverse eco-culture systems, so much to see, so much to do. So that's another one of my positivity places about the Dominican Republic. So another brief thing that I'm going to mention is time. Dominicans, I've lived all over the Caribbean. They talk about Caribbean time. Dominicans truly do not know time. So if you ask a Dominican, how long will it take for you to bake me a cake? they're going to give you a number, hour, 2 hours a day. They have in no means thought about, is that how long it'll take them? They're just telling you a number to keep you happy and keep you away from them. They have no idea on time. And you go into places, people are happy to take a number and just wait. No one gets frustrated. Then they get back into their cars and drive like crazy to get to the next place and then stand and wait. So anyway, time is something. Now, I'm going to get into another video about actually living here as a gringo. More ups and downs of living here. Where I live in the city and in Las Terrenas, I don't live in the gringo areas. I don't live in the boroughs, but I live outside. And all the videos I watch, even yours, Jamie, love your videos, but his videos also to me tend to be more on the gringo style. So if you want to come to the Dominican Republic and live a life like a gringo and not speak Spanish and be around other gringos and buy the food that you used to buy and all the Punta Cana and all these other places, Payatini in the city, and that is where you want to live. If you want to just live, I want to say, like not in the boroughs, but just whatever, I can give you an Vice's apartment in a lovely place. But I would say 80% of my neighbors are middle-class Dominicans. So we live in a middle-class Dominican area. We have way less traffic than the gringo areas. We have amazing supermarkets. We have amazing restaurants. And yeah, you're accepted. You're just another person. So I'll make a video about my life as a South African gringo in the Dominican Republic. So in conclusion to this video, the challenges in the Dominican Republic, it's definitely the issues with women and women abuse. That is something. Pollution, something. I call it environmental degradation, the pollution. And the economic diversity, or I really don't like the rich and the poor thing. There's a little middle class, but there's no real thing. I really feel like educating the normal people to, everyone has a little business. Like I have a little Kamada, which is a small little shop that they are amazing. And I'll get into that, talk about Kamadas in the video of actually living in the Dominican Republic. But a lot of them, they have little nail salons. So they all have their little shops and they all have their entrepreneurial thought. And they do little things, but they don't necessarily have the education of taking it further, of expanding, building up the business, opening up a second one. And there are some that do that, but maybe that's just a maybe education thing. Or once again, just Dominicans happy. I make enough money to buy my food, pay my house. So why would I go much further? It's Europeans always want to take things further and go bigger. Maybe they're just all happy to do that. So that's like the challenges. What I love, I'm going to say it again, the community, the warmth, the acceptance of each other, the way they look after each other, the way they share each other, the way they're always happy and positive. These are the reasons why I've chosen the Dominican Republic to be mine. So all this being said, thank you very much, Dominican Republic. Mi vida, Dominicana Republic, me gusta mucho amor para Dominicana. And it's why I've called it my home. So some videos I'm going to bring up, I'll put them over here. I'm going to say where I live in the Dominican Republic and where I feel and how you finding a place to rent, which is really challenging if you don't know how. Buying a place, not so challenging, I don't think. Opening a business in the Dominican Republic, hiring staff. I'm going to do a video on that. I'm also actually going to do a video about a gringo marrying a young Dominican woman because it's a controversial subject with a lot of normally older gringo women, not so much the men. And people, oh, look at that man, he's taken a young woman. But I want to do a video about it because a lot of the dangers or that do exist. But I'm going to say the majority of people I've come across and I have older men that have married younger Dominican women. Honestly, the majority of us is extremely happy. Our wives are happy. Everyone's great. It's great for the whole thing. So I'm going to do a video about a gringo marrying a younger Dominican. I'm going to do a video which I've already started a bunch on taking over, running a boutique hotel in Las Terrenas as a gringo, the challenges, the positivities of that. I was also going to do one about car ownership. I've seen people like Jamie did a video about importing his own car, and I've seen people about buying cars. And I'm actually going to get into buying a car, a used car, bring your own car in. Now, I'm an ex-mechanic by trade, so my whole life actually started in the auto industry. So I actually do know a lot about that. And I'm actually going to get into it. We actually ended up buying a Chinese and a Korean car. And honestly, I'll get into that. That's been nothing but an absolutely amazing experience. And I personally, in my life, have owned everything from Ferraris to Lamborghinis, Mercedes, BMWs, new, used, Toyotas. You name them, I've had them. And I can honestly say that I have never in my life had such an amazing experience buying a new car as I have had with these Chinese and Korean cars. So that's another video. And then also becoming a Dominican citizen, becoming legal and becoming. Now, you can stay in this country and you can just pay your tariff when you leave. And people say you aren't committing a crime, it's not a fine, it doesn't go against your name. Yes, yes, yes. I'm in the Dominican Republic and I believe it was only respectful to become legal and follow all the procedures on becoming legal. So I will do a video about that. So anyway, thank you, Dominican Republic, for allowing me. I hope you guys have enjoyed this video. If you have, please go ahead and click the like, subscribe, and the notifications, especially if you want to see the videos, these videos over here that I'm going to be putting out, if you're interested in any of those. And if you guys have any questions about anything I've said, living in the Dominican Republic, ask me about living in Turks and Caicos, living as a gringo in America, whatever. Feel free to ask me any questions and be glad to answer. And, you know, if it's necessary, maybe put another video out for that. So anyway, from me and Silly who's sleeping out there, thanks for watching this and cheers for now.